Here's what I've been hearing in talking to people around the church. You may have heard some of these things as well. We hear from people who worry about how churches are going to pay their bills. We hear from people who worry that their local church will have to close its doors. There are clergy who worry about losing their jobs, and there are parishes that worry about having to send their priest to the unemployment line. And there are still others who worry that the important work of mission and ministry will get lost in the midst of all these other important worries. We're trying to survive while we're consumed by worry, and it's pulling us in all kinds of different and competing directions. But here's the part that we can all agree on. We cannot pretend that nothing is happening, while an ever larger burden is being carried by an ever smaller, ever older core group of people. The report of the Diocesan Commission in 2018 gave us an opportunity to take tentative first steps towards addressing these problems. It's time to keep working on the recommendations of that report. It's time to have the conversations that the report invites us to have. It's time to embrace mission, not as a trendy buzzword with no substance, not as a get-rich-quick scheme to save struggling institutions, but as the very heart and soul of what the church is about and what it's for. Eventually, this is going to mean conversations about buildings. And here's what we've learned in the last 3.5 years. We're not able to have these kind of conversations on our own. We need an independent process to help the diocese make responsible decisions for a sustainable future. Each one of us has too many emotional investments in buildings and in institutions to be able to approach these questions objectively. We need the help and support of people who have no vested interests, so that we can be more honest about the state of the problems and the ways that we're able to work towards solving them. But there's something even bigger that we need to work on. While we've got hard work and difficult decisions ahead of us, it is just as important that we work to protect every single parish clergy position. Remember that Jesus said, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few." Even if we have to reimagine the way we go about the harvest, why on earth should that mean fewer laborers? Why not invest in teams of them, instead of relying on individual clergy working on their own? We need teams that can bring more diverse gifts, skills, and passions to the church's mission and ministry in the world. Our parishioners and friends are supporting us with their generosity. We have a responsibility to use that generosity not to pay for oil and electric bills, but to support people and ministries. Whoever we elect to be our next bishop, we need a chief shepherd who will not just lead, but accompany the flock. When the road ahead seems dark and dangerous, it would be my job to walk with the sheep and reassure them. When the church faces crisis, it would be my job to face it with you. If that means navigating the strange and uncertain terrain of digital ministry, that's where you'll find me, working to keep the flock together. When the church shifts from maintenance to mission, it's my job to be a leader in that mission, with my sleeves rolled up and my hands dirty. Pope Francis talks about the importance of shepherds with the smell of the sheep on them, and that is just as important for bishops as it is for priests. In the midst of a broken world that desperately needs good news, the church needs to be vulnerable and present in the midst of that brokenness, because there is a profound strength and power that comes from that kind of vulnerability. We have a lot of hard work and even more unprecedented times ahead of us. But there is a bright future for us. We need to face it and work for it together. We need to stop worrying about individual concerns of parishes and congregations and focus instead on the work that we can only do when we're working together. That's my priority. It should be all of our priorities. It's time for us to remember that we are fellow laborers in the gospel. This is not a competition.